Introducing your trusted source for high-quality Black emojis, better known as Blackmoji. We believe Black is beautiful, and that beauty should be reflected in the digital market. Now there is an app that does just that, starting with Black Greek letter organizations. Blackmoji D9 offers more than an emoji app. It is a cultural experience of Black excellence. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to access a specially curated catalog of emojis representing the Divine Nine. Use the emojis to celebrate Black Greek events, acknowledge current events, support social causes, and learn about esteemed Black Greek members who blaze the trail of Black history. A portion of every subscription goes toward a scholarship fund specifically for members of Black Greek letter organizations to help keep the legacy alive. Download the Blackmoji app today.
WIFTBPN.
Live from What's in It for the Black Media Studio.
And so, my fellow Americans, I have a dream.
You're listening to Triggered.
You want to crown him? Then crown her ass. I ain't scared of you, mother.
The one and only
Mike Brown.
My calculations are correct.
Let's begin.
Hey, what's going on? We're back for another episode of Triggered. I am your host, Instructor Mike Brown, on What's in It for the Black People Media Network. Yes, we're going to talk about some stuff. That's it. Already the comments are just blowing up. Like, let's go on ahead and get some shit started. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about Kim Foxx. We're going to talk about her decision not to charge Midlothian, Illinois police officer Ian Covey with the death of Jamel Roberson, okay? And I'm going to go on ahead and do some commentary from that. We're going to look at the decision not to charge, okay, and what specifically came out of her office. And then we're going to also look at the Breonna Taylor decision not to charge, or the Breonna Taylor decision with the Attorney General, Daniel Cameron. And we're going to look at the tapes that just came out with the revelation, in essence, that Attorney General Cameron did not choose to present before the grand jury the evidence to allow them to decide whether or not any type of murder charges should be filed or an indictment should come out against the officer. And then I'm going to tell you about the position that Kim Foxx is in as the Black attorney, the state's attorney in Cook County, and the position that she's finding herself in. So that's going to be a pretty important conversation to even have about that, because being a former law enforcement officer myself, I can gather the position that she's in, and maybe some people didn't take into consideration that, you know, while she may be this apparent reformer of criminal justice, you know, within her role and taking the state's attorney's office in a different area and in a different way than we've probably seen before, there are some things that you may not take into consideration when it comes down to her office and her position. And so that is an important thing to talk about. So let's go on ahead and dive right into it. All right, so I'm going to read it straight from her office, and you can go to cookcountystatesattorney.org. That's cookcountystatesattorney.org, and look at the decision not to charge. So I'm going to read it rather verbatim. So it's an overview. On November 11, 2018, Jamel Roberson, who was working as a security guard at Manny's Blue Room Lounge Bar in Robbins, Illinois, was shot and killed by Midlothian police officer Ian Covey, who arrived at Manny's in response to a call of an active shooter who discharged a gun inside Manny's and wounded several individuals. The Illinois State Police Public Integrity Task Force conducted an investigation into Roberson's death, and the Cook County Sheriff's Police conducted an investigation into the civilian shootings. During the course of their investigation, investigators interviewed over 100 law enforcement and civilian witnesses and reviewed 911 calls, police radio transmissions, in-car cameras, cell phone videos, private surveillance video, photographs of the scene, police reports, medical reports, and results of forensic examinations. The Illinois State Police provided the Office of the Cook County State's Attorney its final report of the investigation pursuant to the Police and Community Relations Improvement Act. The Office of the Cook County State's Attorney, as the agency responsible for making criminal charging decisions under Illinois law for incidents that occur in Cook County, reviewed the evidence collected during the investigation to determine whether there was a good faith basis for filing criminal charges. And after a thorough review, the office has concluded that evidence is insufficient to support criminal charges against the officer. Absolutely. Tiger Lily is amazing on Facebook. And those of you all watching on YouTube, by the way, go on ahead and subscribe to the Maze Jackson page and hit this bell for notifications. And those of you all watching this on Facebook, like the Maze Jackson page for more of this information, not only coming out of this show, but I said what I said, Maze Jackson show in the morning and the Book of Dawn you just got through watching. But yeah, this is one of those, I called it. I knew this was going to happen. Why did I know this was going to happen? Maybe because I'm educated in the criminal justice system. And so if the people fail for the lack of knowledge, then I don't want to throw it in your face, but let's talk about how this came to be. Okay. And we might have seen the video of Jamel Robinson's mom. I really feel for her. Such a sweetheart. She really is, but I really feel for her because this did not have to happen, and we can talk about that too. So let's get to the statement of facts. Evidence presented in any criminal proceeding resulting from this incident would show as follows. At approximately 4 a.m., a physical altercation erupted inside of Manny's Blue Room Lounge, which necessitated security guards, including Jamel Roberson, removing patrons from the establishment. The altercation escalated and several individuals fired multiple gunshots inside and outside of the lounge, resulting in 4 people being shot. Now, there is video out there circulating about that, and the shots were actually fired from one of the doors. Okay, it was a fight that occurred, and the security officers put them outside, and then they went to the car and got a gun, which typically does happen. After they got that gun, they came back inside, and that's when the shots were fired. There's video to support that. Here we go. At the time of the shooting, Robbins police officers were on scene. Now, Robbins police at the time, I believe, is at least over 80% all black, 80% black police agency in the city or in the village of Robbins. Okay. They were on scene and requested assistance from surrounding police departments. That is something that we do in the suburbs because we don't have enough support for that. And there's a lot of things that happen at a crime scene. And typically on that radio band, I used to be a police officer in that area. That radio band, you have other agencies, including Midlothian, Blue Island, Cal Park, Posen, who else? You might have Crestwood, which is a neighboring agency. So you'll have those agencies that will assist, especially for an active shooting situation, not uncommon. Several patrons and a wounded employee called 911 seeking police assistance. Officers from approximately 10 police agencies, including local, county, and state, responded to the calls for assistance. Midlothian police officer Ian Covey arrived in the parking lot of Manny's dressed in full police uniform. This is supported by dash camera in the vehicle, in a marked police vehicle equipped with an in-car camera and a microphone. Ian Covey was not issued a body-worn camera, as is the case with the entire Midlothian Police Department. None of the suburban officers who responded prior to or during the officer-involved shooting were issued body-worn cameras. That, unfortunately, is something that plagues a lot of the South suburban law enforcement agencies, that they do not have body cameras. When I was a cop out there, I made sure I had my own body camera. I made sure I had my own video camera. Having conducted a bunch of traffic stops and things like that, and having made a bunch of arrests, I know that there's always a possibility for false accusations. I don't have time for the false accusations, so I need to make sure that I have the body camera to protect myself, okay? That's what happens when you know what needs to be done and you want to protect yourself while doing the job, okay? So, and continuing, when Officer Covey exited his police vehicle, he was approached by at least one patron, who indicated that someone had been shot in the bar and there was someone inside with a gun. Officer Covey retrieved his medic bag and his rifle and entered the bar. Officer Covey encountered a loud and chaotic scene inside and outside of the bar, including individuals who sustained gunshot wounds, police officers tending to injured individuals, and a crowd that had formed behind the bar where an employee who sustained a gunshot wound to the head laid. In an attempt to provide cover for those tending to the individuals, Officer Covey stood on top of the bar and shouted for the crowd to stop, get down, and not move. Something I probably would have done too. Okay. We're going to go on ahead and go on a break. I'm going to finish the rest of this. We're going to go on ahead and go on the break, probably at that cliffhanger moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more on the Ian Covey situation in Midlothian. Stay tuned.
WIFTBPN.
When you need vibrant, colorful gear that offers high-performance material that keeps you cool, call Agent Huff Custom Gear. Let us take your expressions and create something new for your everyday wear, your bedroom, or bath. For all your needs, we offer custom sublimation, silkscreen, vinyl, and embroidery. You can reach us on all things social at Superhero Huff. www.superherohuff.com or 630-476-9191.
Introducing your trusted source for high-quality black emojis. Emoji. We believe black is beautiful, and that beauty should be reflected in the digital market. Now there is an app that does just that, starting with Black Greek letter organizations. Blackmoji D9 offers more than an emoji app. It is a cultural experience of black excellence. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to access a specially curated catalog of emojis representing the Divine Nine. Use the emojis to celebrate Black Greek events, acknowledge current events, support social causes, and learn about esteemed Black Greek members who blaze the trail of Black history. A portion of every subscription goes toward a scholarship fund specifically for members of Black Greek letter organizations to help keep the legacy alive. Download the Blackmoji app today.
WIFTBPN.
Live from What's in It for the Black Media Studio.
And so, my fellow Americans, I have a dream.
You're listening to Trigger.
You want to crown them? Then crown their ass. I ain't scared of you, mother.
The one and only.
Mike Brown.
My calculations are correct.
Let's begin.
All right, we're back. What's in it for the Black People Media presents Trigger with Instructor Mike. I'm your host, Instructor Mike, and we're back talking about the Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx and her decision not to charge Midlothian police officer Ian Covey in the death of Jamel Roberson, a security officer who was working at Manny's Blue Room. And by the way, shouts out to, I said what I said, Herb Warner. I almost got the names mixed up. Herb Howard and Tucson Warner. Tucson got Kanye to give the Roberson fam $200,000 to cover their expenses and stuff like that. So shouts out to Tucson. He's a great guy. We're going to go ahead and continue in this conversation. I think it's very important to talk about and an interesting perspective as to why this took place the way it did and the result that I knew that Kim Foxx was going to be kind of forced in essence to make. Some people say it was about politics. I don't think so. It was definitely about the law, but we're going to talk about that. Let's get to it. So, Ian Covey exits his vehicle. He's approached by a patron who indicates that someone had been shot in the bar and there was someone inside with a gun. Ian Covey retrieved his medic bag and rifle and then entered the bar. He encountered a loud and chaotic scene inside the bar and outside of the bar, including individuals who sustained GSWs or gunshot wounds, police officers tending to those who were injured, and a crowd who had formed behind the bar where an employee who sustained a gunshot wound to the head laid. In an attempt to provide cover for those individuals, and those who don't understand what cover is, that's when you're actually, providing support fire in essence, or the ability to lay down cover fire for people who, are being tended to and stuff like that. So that happens. Okay. He got up on top of the bar and shouted for the crowd to stop, get down, and don't move. On his way into the bar and inside of the bar, Ian Covey encountered two separate security guards who identified themselves as such. Ian Covey acknowledged them. Patrons and a security guard directed Officer Covey to the side door of the lounge, which led to the parking lot, indicating that the shooter was out there. Now, here's the area where we're gonna have some issues here. Okay. Officer Covey went to the side door where he viewed the parking lot. Officer Covey observed a male, now known to be Jamel Roberson, wearing all black clothing with no identifying marks or markings, straddled over a male who he held face down on the ground. Mr. Roberson held the gun in his right hand, which he pointed towards the front area of where the bar patrons were exiting and responding officers were arriving. Mr. Roberson's clothing had no indication that he was a security guard. Mr. Covey ordered Mr. Roberson repeatedly to get down and drop the gun. Mr. Roberson turned in Officer Covey's direction, but did not acknowledge or follow Officer Covey's verbal commands. Believing Mr. Roberson was the active shooter, Officer Covey fired his Rock River Arms model LAR 15 5.56 millimeter calibered rifle 4 times, striking Mr. Roberson 4 times on his right side and right back, which was part of Mr. Roberson's body facing closest to Officer Covey. A Glock 17 semi-automatic handgun fell from Mr. Roberson's right hand and was later recovered by officers. Officer Covey performed life-saving measures on Mr. Roberson until the scene was secured for emergency medical services to enter. Mr. Roberson was transported by Bud's Ambulance Service to Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn, Illinois. Mr. Roberson was pronounced deceased at approximately 5 a.m. The Cook County Medical Examiner performed a post-mortem examination of Mr. Roberson and concluded that he died as a result of multiple gunshot wounds, and the manner of death was ruled as a homicide. No video footage captured the shooting. However, Officer Covey's in-car camera microphone recorded the verbal commands Officer Covey gave as he entered Manny's, as well as those he gave to Mr. Roberson. 23 fired bullet cartridge casings comprised of 4 different calibers of ammunition were recovered on scene. 1 fired bullet, 1 unfired bullet cartridge, and a magazine without a gun containing 16 unfired rounds were recovered on scene. 6 fired bullets or bullet fragments were recovered from the bodies of the gunshot victims. Okay. 1 fired bullet and 3 bullet fragments were recovered from Mr. Roberson's body. Fired bullets were also removed from the 2 individuals who were wounded in the civilian shootings. Now we'll get to that. I see your comment, Reddit. Life-saving measures. Yes, that's CPR, stuff like that. Trying to clot the gunshot wound, stuff it up, stuff like that. So those are life-saving measures. Not every life-saving measure results in someone's life being saved. Just on the caveat of that conversation. A firearm was anonymously turned over to law enforcement officers during the course of this investigation, which was linked to a portion of the firearm evidence. Of the 23 fired bullet casings recovered on scene, 7 are linked to known firearms that were recovered by law enforcement. No, there was no footage. Just to answer your question, those of you all watching on Facebook, just to answer your question, there was no footage of the shooting. There was footage of the Cook County Sheriff's Police who responded to show certain things. Now, this footage is all over. You can find it on YouTube. I'll even post it on my YouTube channel, Instructor Mike. That's going to occur a little bit later on today, possibly sometime tomorrow. But what you will see is the only people who responded, and now you can actually go to the Cook County Sheriff's website, cookcountysheriff.org, I believe, and you can actually see the body cam footage of the Cook County Sheriff's Police who responded to the scene. And you will see some of the security officers who were there, none of whom had any markings whatsoever that they belonged to a security company. And we're going to talk about that. We've talked about that before, but I think it's time to revisit that again in this conversation, because Kim Foxx is feeling some unnecessary heat from the black community. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been a staunch critic in certain respects of some of the things that Kim Foxx has done, but I think that the black community's treatment of Kim Foxx in this decision is so wrong, so off base, because she did what the law supported. And there's some blame to be passed here that's in need of discussion here. Okay. So the evidence at any trial would conclude evidence indicating that when Mr. Roberson did not acknowledge or follow Ian Covey's verbal commands to get down and drop the gun, it was not unreasonable for Officer Covey to believe that Mr. Roberson was the active shooter on the scene who was intending to cause further harm than already inflicted by the killing or causing great bodily harm to the patrons, employees, and police officers on scene. So, in her analysis, this is very important to listen or look at. Okay, you can go to cookcountystatesattorney.org, and she's been very transparent in her decisions, something that you can argue whether or not you've seen in previous state's attorneys. Here, you've got it word for word. You don't have to agree or like what you hear, but it's right there in black and white for you to see for yourself. Okay, in analysis and conclusion, here we go. A criminal prosecution for either first degree or second degree murder would require proof beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a 95% standard, okay, that Officer Covey was not legally justified in using deadly force against Jamel Roberson. In other words, a judge or jury would need to conclude that the officer did not reasonably believe that he or others were in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm from Mr. Roberson. Let me stop here. I want you all to understand that in analysis of certain things, as it goes down to the law and as it goes into courts, and I can definitely speak to that from experience, having been on both sides, a person who was arrested falsely and a person who's conducted many of cases and made many arrests, okay? There are three types of, I guess, analysis if you think about it. There's reason, right, and reasonable. Reason, right, and reasonable. Now, a reason why you did something. We all can come up with a reason why we did something. But is it right? What's determined in terms of what is right is the law, the statutory law, the codified law, what's in case law. Statutory law, those are the things that your state legislators, our state legislators and representatives make into law in the separate houses of Congress, if you will, at the federal level, and in our house of, in our legislature, if you will, at the state level, when they come together and pass laws in both houses of Congress and it's signed into law by the chief executive, be it the president or the governor, that's statutory law. Case law is what's decided at the appellate court level for the given districts, appellate districts, and at the state Supreme Court or the United States Supreme Court or the federal district. That's case law. Those two bodies of law determine what can be done, what can't be done, and that's what is determined as what's right. Now, you hear this throughout this analysis and through other cases. You hear what's reasonable. What's reasonable? Do I determine what's reasonable? No, I don't determine what's reasonable as the person. I have a reason for why I did it. I can maybe justify it and say that it was right according to the law, but who determines this analysis of reasonability, if that's a word, or what's reasonable? That is determined by society, okay? And using the philosopher Immanuel Kant in talking about the categorical imperative, act in a manner that, and I'm paraphrasing for the lack of, the direct quote, act in a manner so as it would be willed as universal law. That same type of analysis is applied to a jury or a judge as a trier of fact. Would we as a society say that this particular action is reasonable given what we would allow a person in this society by rule of the majority to actually do? And looking at the reasonableness of Officer Covey's actions and his analysis, right? Some of you all have paid attention, or a great percentage of you all have paid attention to a lot of the things that were said. In other words, people were there on scene, patrons were there on scene, and they told Officer Covey, hey, he's the security guard, okay? Now, step into the shoes of Officer Covey. That's a thing called empathy. So you are the person with the rifle, and you see two people who are in front of you. One's on top, one's on the bottom. Nothing specifically identifies either person as friend or foe, good guy or bad guy, insofar as you see, and I've been in a like situation before where you have to separate parties. You don't know who's who, especially if they both have no identifiers other than average clothing, okay? And to even tell you that we're going to continue in reading the rest of this, because it's almost done, we're going to continue reading the rest of this. When you look at how security agencies work in clubs, and you begin to analyze certain things, Jamel Roberson was working for a under-the-table security company. Under-the-table security company, and that's something that needs to be talked about too. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to read the rest of this, and we're going to talk about what you may not know about this given situation and the position that Kim Foxx is unfortunately but unfairly put in when we come right back with Triggered with Mike Brown.
WIFTBPN.
Funeral expenses are costly. The
Casket Store wants to help you save hundreds of dollars. You do not have to purchase a casket from the funeral home. Call now for a free in-home consultation. Call 773-445-6900. 773-445-6900.
Introducing your trusted source for high-quality black emojis, better known as Blackmoji. We believe black is beautiful, and that beauty should be reflected in the digital market. Now there is an app that does just that, starting with Black Greek letter organizations. Blackmoji D9 offers more than an emoji app. It is a cultural experience of black excellence. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to access a specially curated catalog of emojis representing the Divine Nine. Use the emojis to celebrate Black Greek events, acknowledge current events, support social causes, and learn about esteemed Black Greek members who blaze the trail of Black history. A portion of every subscription goes toward a scholarship fund specifically for members of Black Greek letter organizations to help keep the legacy alive. Download the Blackmoji app today.
WIIFTVPN.
In all my years of radio, I've never seen anything.
WIIFTVPN.
Live from What's in It for the Black Media Studio.
And so, my fellow Americans, I have a dream.
You're listening to Trigger.
You want to crown them? Then crown their ass. I ain't scared of you, mother.
The one and only.
Mike Brown.
My calculations are correct.
Let's begin.
All right, we're back. Those of us just joining us, we've been talking about the Cook County State's Attorney decision not to charge Midlothian police officer Ian Covey in the death of Jamel Roberson, having occurred in November of 2000. Backtrack. I want to say 2018. 2018. All right, and we've been reading the statement from Cook County State's Attorney Kim Fox's office. You can find it on www.cookcountystatesattorney.org. And thank you for those of you all who are following on Facebook. Thank you for those of you all, Raymond Hubbard, who just sent 200 stars. And don't forget to hit the stars on the Maze Jackson page. That's what helps support great content like this. I said what I said with Herb Howard and Toussaint Warner, another great show. And other shows such as The Book of Dawn, The Maze Jackson Show in the Morning, Muakil's World, and other shows, Chicago Famous with Mike Love and Diz, Chicago Radio Legends. So, the Bigs, I'm going to keep on naming all the shows because it's a great network. And I support this network because this network is possible when someone told the owner and the director of this network what he can and cannot talk about. The fuck? Are you serious? When we need information out here and the people fail for the lack of knowledge, tell me no, I'm starting some shit. That's right. Let's keep going. All right, so you don't have to agree with everything that you hear. Some people like what they hear instead of learning from what they heard. That's right. So let's go on ahead and hear some more. Here we go. We're talking about this decision. I'm going to read the rest of this and then get into my analysis of what we may not know about this given situation. Okay, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, whether you like the name or not, whether you agree with the Nation of Islam or not, that's a you thing. I leave that to you subjectively. But he said something that was important and it can be applied to everyone. When good people fall, don't laugh, learn. Jamel Roberson was a hero in every right because while he should not have done certain things that made that possible, he stepped out and put his life on the line to apprehend a shooter and lost his life because of it. And that is something that I will always say when everybody wants to go to heaven. How many of you are willing to die to make it happen? Well, if you ain't ready to die to make it happen, sit your ass down and learn something and get some courage. Maybe you can watch The Wiz and maybe he got a heart for your cowardly ass. Let's keep going. Here we go. So, an analysis and conclusion in this: a criminal prosecution for either first degree or second degree murder would require proof beyond a reasonable doubt that Officer Covey was not legally justified in using deadly force against Jamel Roberson. In other words, a judge or a jury, as the triers of fact, would need to conclude that the officer did not reasonably believe that he or others were in imminent danger of death or great bodily harm from Mr. Roberson. The evidence established that Officer Covey's officer's use of force was objectively reasonable. Now, that term objectively reasonable comes from a United States Supreme Court case of Graham versus Connor. Okay, Graham versus Connor, the objective reasonableness. In other words, this is what I want or need to do. And in doing that, my objective in doing this action is to enforce the law by doing this, or to stop someone from dying, or to that has to be established by the facts and circumstances in that case, called the totality of circumstances. That would be United States Supreme Court case law. Okay, and you should go and look at that Graham versus Connor case. In fact, I would invite you to go to www.oyez.org. That's the United States Supreme Court's website, where all of the pivotal cases, Supreme Court cases, are on there, and you can listen to the arguments of what the plaintiff, in essence, in this case, is arguing before the Supreme Court, and the respondents or whatnot, when they're arguing these cases before the Supreme Court. Is some interesting stuff, and maybe we'll talk about that one time. That Graham Connor is a very troubling but interesting case. Okay, let's continue. The totality of the evidence. You heard me say that just a minute ago. The totality of the evidence showed that Officer Covey arrived at Manny's in response to reports of an active shooter or shooters who wounded four patrons. Several 911 calls pleaded for help and requests for assistance from Robbins police officers who were on scene. And I'm going to tell you this. Robbins police officers are not prepared for major disasters and things like that when they happen. I'm just going to go ahead and put it out there. It's true. So it's not uncommon to have them call for assistance. Okay. Someone would say, why would you put that out there? Well, it's true. You want to change that? Look at the legislators in the area who can give them funding to make that stuff possible. That's right. I'm advocating for that police department. Okay. Here we go. When Officer Covey arrived at the lounge, patrons immediately approached and informed him that people were injured and there was an individual with a gun on the scene. Officer Covey encountered other security personnel who identified themselves as such, and Officer Covey acknowledged them. He was directed by multiple individuals that the shooter was outside the side door. When he encountered Mr. Roberson, Officer Covey gave verbal commands that were not acknowledged or followed. And I'll tell you, there's a reason why, given what happens under stress, Roberson did not follow those commands. That doesn't necessarily mean he criminally didn't follow those commands, but who in that moment has a time to make that analysis? We'll get to that. Okay. Officer Covey gave verbal commands that were not acknowledged or followed. Mr. Roberson continued to hold on an individual on the ground and point his gun in the direction of patrons exiting and arriving in the parking lot. Officer Covey then fired his weapon multiple times at Mr. Roberson. Accordingly, based on the evidence reviewed and the matter and the applicable legal standards, evidence is insufficient to support the filing of criminal charges, as the officer's use of deadly force against Mr. Roberson was not unreasonable under the totality of the circumstances. Accordingly, the office is not filing criminal charges in this case. Okay, so I will sit here and say this, that I support Kim Foxx's decision not to file charges. And it's not because I'm pro-police or whatever your opinion about me is. I give shit. That's your opinion. Love you, hate you, whatever. Who cares? But I support the office not filing charges. Typically what you see, and Kim Foxx is feeling what a good percentage of black police officers especially feel, because Kim Foxx, whether you see her as a reformer or not, she is law enforcement. She is a chief law enforcement officer of the county of Cook, situated in the state of Illinois. That's who she is. Whether she plays that role or not is a subjective opinion, and mostly she has not. Okay, she's been a reformer. That's what people have been asking for, and that's what it's been. But in this case, I'd like to see more of this. I'd like to see educated folks who use the analysis of the applicable laws in a given situation and make the decision not to pass off their duty and responsibility to know the law and to apply the law as appropriate when appropriate, to actually make a decision so that you don't throw it off on the grand jury and let them decide, so that politically your hands are clean, so that you don't throw it off as a police officer onto the state's attorney and let them decide to charge, because 9 times out of 10 they're gonna charge. It's gonna make its way through the court, and there's gonna be a finding of not guilty, a nolle prosequi, which is Latin for, we're deciding not to prosecute anymore, a motion state SOL, which is stricken on leave to reinstate, because the person doesn't show up, or there's a decision at the state level once it gets there not to charge. And at that point, now you've got an arrest record that you don't bother to expunge. And that becomes a thing that affects you in getting employment, that affects you in getting housing, that may cause you to lose your job, because while there is a presumption of innocence until proven guilty, there is the unfortunate reality for those who have a different hue of their skin, where it's guilty until proven innocent. You'll lose your social status. You'll lose your jobs. You'll lose some family members. You'll lose a great degree of support because someone at that decision level decided to wash their hands of it and throw it off on someone else, and then have them make the decision so I can say, hey, I did my job. Well, your job, in essence, is to do exactly what Kim Foxx did in this and look at the applicable law and make the decision that there is no reason to charge this officer in this unfortunate yet tragic situation. So let's talk about it. First of all, Jamel Robeson, the hero that he was working for a under the table, under the book kind of security company. You know, the guy, the big shit security, where they all look like they eat hay overnight and they, farm field hands, big guys and shit, approach a club owner or a venue and say, hey, you want security? This person doesn't know anything about security licensure. So they're going to say, hey, you look like you could protect someone. Let's go on ahead and hire you. Next thing you know, they hire this company. And then on the night of the venue, all these guys show up looking like some tack team without no stars, no identifiers, no credentials. And as long as you look the part for most of these clubs, they're not going to even question, unless it's like some of these other clubs where they really care about what happens when shit goes bad. And typically, for these under the book table or under the book security companies, they're able to walk away, each person paid with $125 or $100 or so, and then nothing happens, so no one ever questions it. Maybe they continue to get used, maybe another company gets used, and that's that. So that was this outfit that Jamel was a part of, because at present, and I say again, at present, no one, not one security company has claimed that he is ours. You don't have an Allied Universal, Allied Barton. Well, that's not Allied Barton anymore. You don't have an Allied Universal. You don't have an AGB. You don't have a Titan. You don't have, a Benford Protection Group. You don't have any of these other. You don't have Kate Security. You don't have any of the known names out there who said, hey, this is our employee, and we regret to inform you that we lost our employee as a part of this action that we totally condemn, whatever. You have no security company that came out right and said, hey, he's ours. Telltale sign to me, that was an under the table security company. Okay, so let's continue. One, I'm losing the number. I'm not gonna say 1, 2, 3. Let's just say next. In order for you to work in a bar, there are certain things that these security officers have to have, and I'm a subject matter expert in this. I teach it, I understand it, so let's talk about it. One, you're talking about a place where liquor is sold, so they have to meet the requirements of the Illinois Liquor Control Act, meaning that the owners need to have a liquor license, a 1A license for on-premise consumption, and the other people need to have a 5A license, or at least a Bassett card underneath someone's 5A license. I was a 5A instructor as a Bassett instructor, so they got to go through a Bassett class. They cannot carry firearms inside of the club unless they're law enforcement on duty. Now, they can carry firearms around the exterior premises, but there can be no firearm on the inside. It's questionable if the owner can have it. It's the owner, but no one else inside of there can have that because it's a 1A on-premise consumption type of bar. Okay, so that's important to look at too. All right. Also, if you look at the body cameras of the Cook County Cook County Sheriff's Office, when they respond, the Sheriff's Police, the security officers you see on scene, and you do see them. You can see their exterior body armor. You can see the vest that they were wearing, like they just raided an Army surplus store and said, hey, fuck it, this looks good. I'm going to wear this shit today. Then you see they have no identifying marks, because if you're working under the table, you want to be able to slip out when shit goes bad. And that's exactly what should have happened. So when you go look at the licenses that are hero, and I'm going to continue to say hero because Jamel was a hero, but sometimes heroes don't have all the information and they end up following the crowd and shit happens. And this is one of those circumstances. Jamel had his 20-hour training. He had his 40-hour training in order to be an armed security officer. He had an FOID card. He did not have a concealed carry. Now, concealed carry is it's a moot point in essence at this phase of the argument, because even if you had concealed carry, bars where 50% of the sales come from the sale of alcohol is considered to be off limits. That kind of 1A on-premise consumption is definitely where over 50% of their revenue comes from. And by that very nature, according to the Illinois Concealed Carry Act, and you can go look at it for yourself, 430 Illinois Compiled Statutes Act 66, that's the act, okay? That place is off limits from a person being able to carry in that establishment. So, ipso facto, or by that very fact, he could not carry a gun in there. It is known that he went to his car and grabbed the firearm. That's how he was able to have it on his possession. He complied with the law 100%, except for when he went to his car and grabbed that gun in pursuit of that shooter. That is when shit went wrong. Now, let me tell you what happens to a person under the influence of stress, which I think that Jamel was greatly under, okay? When you come under the influence of some kind of stress where you feel that you are about to die, which was definitely there, all those shots being fired, all those people, going down, and our hero Jamel Roberson wanting to stop the shooter. It was very commendable. Man, I wish he was still alive. This didn't have to happen. But when you're under the influence of that stress, there are some things that happen to your body. And we're going to talk about those things when we come back with Triggered with Instructor Mike. Don't go anywhere.
WIFTBPM.
When you need vibrant, colorful gear that offers high-performance material that keeps you cool, call Agent Huff Custom Gear. Let us take your expressions and create something new for your everyday wear, your bedroom, or bath. For all your needs, we offer custom sublimation, silkscreen, vinyl, and embroidery. You can reach us on all things social at Superhero Huff. www.superherohuff.com or 630-476-9191.
Biggest threat to Illinois citizens from Washington is health care costs and policies. Senior citizens have their Social Security reduced from Medicaid, and some of our senior citizens live off $3 a week for food allowance. Working families are facing bankruptcy over policy and limit and cost. Drug prices require decision between food and Medicaid. I'm Dr. Willie Wilson. Vote for me and send me to Washington. God bless.
Paid for by Willie Wilson for Senate 2020.
WIFTBPM.
Live from What's in It for the Black Media Studio.
And so, my fellow Americans, I have a dream.
You're listening to Triggered.
You want to crown them? Then crown their ass. I ain't scared of you, mother.
The one and only
Mike Brown.
My calculations are correct.
Let's begin.
All right, we're back. Those of you who are just joining us, you're watching Triggered with Instructor Mike. I am your host, Instructor Mike. And don't forget to go on ahead and like the Maze Jackson page and hit the stars button to go on ahead and send those stars. Shouts out to Adrian Anderson, who just sent 300 stars. Much appreciated. To support great content on What's in It for the Black People Media Network. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, go on ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications so you can get every time that programming comes on the YouTube channel. If you're on Facebook, you can get it every time it comes on Facebook. We got great content here. So those of you all who are just joining us, we've been talking about Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx and her office's decision not to charge Midlothian, Illinois police officer Ian Covey in the death of Jamel Roberson, a security guard who was working at Manny's Blue Room November 2018, okay? And so we're continuing this conversation about some things you may not have known about our hero who unfortunately lost his life in this situation. And in this situation, how Kim Foxx is receiving some unnecessary criticism because of her decision not to charge. And I guarantee you, if she was seen as the hero in the eyes of black folks, yeah, she's definitely seen as an op now because she made a decision not to charge Ian Covey. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Let's continue. So our hero, Jamel Roberson, we know that he did not have the proper credentialing to be able to have that firearm on that scene. So that's where the main issue starts right there. Okay. Typically what you have in a contingency plan for working at bars is you'll have two separate details, if you will. You have an inside detail and an interior detail when no one has a firearm to comply with licensing and laws and things like that. And then you'll have an exterior detail where they have firearms in the event that something happens, okay? Because if a situation happens on the inside and there's guns involved, yeah, you can go inside as a security contingency who's armed and deal with the threats that's on the inside, but they cannot be on the inside prior to that given situation happening. And if that contingency was in place by a professional security company, then maybe, just maybe, that would have been the ounce of prevention that should have been necessary than this pound of cure that we're hoping to have happen out of this situation where no justice for that family was seen, or whatever the case may be. So in looking at that situation, I don't care what no one says, Jamel did not have on any type of identifying information that stated that he was a security officer. Let me tell you this. You may not know this, but you should. Off-duty police officers do work security gigs for security companies. Okay, it's called moonlighting. It's nothing new. It's been going on for ages. It's something that happens. And so if he had on something that says security, I can guarantee you, more likely than not, Ian Covey would not have discharged his rifle. Why? Because as a police officer, we know that other police officers work gigs. Police officers take care of other police officers. And so if I were to shoot this person, am I shooting a brother or sister, fellow officer? Okay. As is stated in the report, that Ian Covey, who came on the scene with that rifle, if he had intentions on just shooting anyone who was black, who was a good guy with a gun, he would have had his pickings of who to shoot well before he even got to Jamel Roberson. But he encountered other people and acknowledged them as such because they identified themselves as such. So there's another issue that State's Attorney Kim Foxx, by and through her assistant state's attorneys, would have had to contend with at trial. That if this was his intention, why didn't he shoot anyone else who he encountered prior to? And there's evidence, video evidence to support him entering inside of the club, because there's video evidence of what occurred on the inside of the club. You got people who were Facebook live streaming when the shots were fired, things like that. So you got all that. You got all that. And so where are the lessons that we need to learn from this given situation before we even begin to talk about the position that Kim Foxx is in? You know, look, if you're going to work as a security professional, you need clearly on my shirt, what does it say? Firearms instructor, Instructor Mike. I want people to know what I am, because we identify people, we profile people by what they wear. You spend all this doggone time talking about profiling, and the police shouldn't profile, and you shouldn't profile, and profiling's bad, and profiling is this. What the fuck else do we have to look at by what you chose to wear? You chose to wear that. So you get profiled by what you choose to wear. If you want to be identified as a police officer, you wear a uniform that indicates that you look like what you want to be seen as. Imagine you going into a police station and saying, hey, I need some help. Hey, I need some help. And everybody behind the desk has firefighter gear, but they're all cops. You would think you're in the wrong fucking station. I'm like, well, I need some help. I need some medical assistance. I don't need y'all ass. I need some police. Well, we're the police. It's just Halloween. The fuck? That's why they wear uniforms. You wear what you want to be seen as. You wear what you want to be looked at. Look, your uniform, what you wear, that's your resume. That's how we date. That's how we choose who to eat from. Hell, that's how you choose. I'm going to say it right from the trigger with you. That's how you choose who you going to fuck. I said it. We can cancel Christmas now. I'm just saying, imagine going into the stripper club and all the strippers are wearing clothing. Who do I give the money to? I'm just saying, if bands make them dance, where do I put the, let me stop. I'm just saying, your clothing is the identification as to how you want a person to approach you. How do you want a person to treat you? That's how it is. Imagine, oh, here comes Will Jones. Maybe you've never heard of Undercover. Will, go sit down. I used to be in narcotics. Now, I myself was not someone you would buy work from, but there are also undercover surveillance. That's right, undercover surveillance. So I'm well aware of what undercover is. That was not Jamel. He wasn't an undercover security officer in the bar. Because if you're undercover, guess what that means? No one knows who you are. That you just proved my point, right? So if you want to be seen as such, right, you'll wear a uniform that identifies, that authenticates that I am one to be regarded. I am one to be looked at. Even if you're shitty on the inside, on the outside, you look like you should be treated with some kind of respect. That's why we wear uniforms, unless you're doing it under the table, because you're working for a shitty security company. And if somebody came in and really looked at the credentials that you had and actually knew what they were looking at, you might be in some trouble, which all of them would have been in some trouble had you actually looked in the credentials that they had, because none of them had credentials to work anything armed on that day. Another thing that was extremely troubling to me as to why our hero Jamel got shot. He shouldn't have been the only person who got shot. If Jamel is sitting here taking the shooter into custody who just wounded other people, and then all these other I want to get my moment in the fucking sun people came out and said, well, I had told Officer Covey that he's security. Wait a minute. If I'm on his team and he's taking the shooter down, why in the fuck am I not helping him? Here you got all these people that's sitting around and knows this man is security and knows he's taking the shooter in custody, but you're sitting at the bar trying to get your next number so you can fuck something later on that night. You weren't going to help him. People are as loyal as their options. Why? Because everybody else knew that we were here at this bar under the table. I ain't trying to get in that smoke because I don't want them to know, because I'm not trying to mess up my good shit that I got going. I'm not trying to mess up my good job that I got going. I'm not trying to mess up this. I'm not trying to mess up that. So if you want to go on ahead and play superhero, hey, Air Assault, more power to you. I ain't got shit to do with that. Oh, but when the shooting happens, no, now it's a white person that did the shooter. Now you want to stand tall and claim that he was working with us. What the entire fuck? So what do we learn from that? That people, even in the security field, are as loyal as their options. See, when shit's not going on in the club and everybody just making money, silence is best. Let's go on ahead and just let's not cause any problems, things like that. And let's not security be the problem. And security wasn't the problem that night. It was other patrons with guns who came in who had to fuck up the play. So now it's time to really do some shit. But we can't do some shit because we ain't even supposed to be here with those guns. Oh, shit. Oh, goddamn, he go do too much Jamel. Going to get that. Look at his ass. Look at his. I guarantee you that was one of the comments that somebody on his team said, look at his ass. Goddamn, want to be the police and shit. And see, here you go. Now he sat there and did too much, tried to save a life, and got his life lost in the end. So if Black Lives Matter, if Jamel Roberson's life matters, why are we not holding this bullshit ass security company to the carpet? Why are we not looking at any of those past videos of all those people that said we were with him, that we saw this and we saw that, and we're not charging any of those fuckers who are assisting, in essence, in what happened to Jamel? Why are they not shot too? Yeah, that shit. You ain't ready for that part of the conversation. And I think that Kim Fox, even though I've been a critic of some of the things that she has not done, I think that on this one, black folks saying something about Kim Fox, you need to shut the whole fuck up. If you don't know anything about your rights, if you don't know anything about the Fourth Amendment, if I sat there and told you Tennessee versus Gardner, Graham versus Kine, you don't know a damn thing of what that is except the state of Tennessee and some damn Tennessee whiskey, you can shut the whole fuck up and get off Kim Fox's back. She did what she was supposed to do based on the law. Just imagine taking that case to court, and just imagine if when I become an attorney, if I was the attorney of record for Ian Covey and we got him justice based on the law, having been in that situation before, or like situations where you got to make a quick, sudden emergency decision. Now, all of a sudden, Ian Covey gets found not guilty. Oh my God, it's no justice. It's no justice. Get the fuck out of here, Kim Fox. You did your job and you decided not to charge that man because that was the right thing to do in this given case. And I think that she's feeling that heat and that pressure that happens to a lot of black law enforcement officers. It's this thing in the study of criminology called double marginality. I used to teach it in the colleges. Okay, double marginality. Well, if you're a black law enforcement officer and you go into the black community and you mean well and you approach someone and you get this, who the fuck is this Uncle Tom ass pig? We don't want this type of person in the community. We don't want this type of police. You are part of the very system that oppress us, that do this, that do that. But then you got the other side where white people tend to think that black law enforcement officers give black folks a chance. We can't catch a fucking break. So I get you, Kim Fox, and we'll be right back with Trigger with Instructor Mike.
WIFTVPN.
Funeral expenses are costly. The Casket Store wants to help you save hundreds of dollars. You do not have to purchase a casket from the funeral home. Call now for a free in-home consultation. Call 773-445-6900. 773-445-6900.
When you need vibrant, colorful gear that offers high-performance material that keeps you cool, call Agent Huff Custom Gear. Let us take your expressions and create something new for your everyday wear, your bedroom, or bath. For all your needs, we offer custom sublimation, silkscreen, vinyl, and embroidery. You can reach us on all things social at Superhero Huff. www.superherohuff.com or 630-476-9191.
WIFTVPN.
Live from What's in It for the Black Media Studio.
And so, my fellow Americans, I have a dream.
You're listening to Trigger.
You want to crown them? Then crown their ass. I ain't scared of you, mother.
The one and only
Mike Brown.
My calculations are correct.
Let's begin.
Oh God! It's if you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on YouTube. You probably didn't recognize. I didn't even switch over to the thing. I'm sitting here. All right, we're back with Instructor Mike on Triggered. What's in it for the Black People Media Network? And shouts out to Remy for sending 100 stars. Those of you all watching on Facebook, go on ahead and like the Maze Jackson page and go on ahead and send the stars. It helps to support great content like this on What's in it for the Black People Network. Again, shouts out to Herb Howard and Tucson Warner with I Said What I Said, because man, if you think I trigger you, they trigger you too. This is just a triggered network. You tell us no, we're gonna find a way to kick down that door and say yes. So that's what it's about. All right, let's continue. Yeah, I'm just troubled by that. I'm troubled by that. That it seems to be where there's this call, especially in light of this thing called police reform. You know, and in the desire to want to have more officers who look like us and more prosecutors, you know, who look like us, or even defense attorneys who look like us. And we have that. But what happens when you have someone like Kim Fox in this given situation who made a decision that was just not to charge a police officer because there was no evidence? You know, even if you look at, right, and here's a revelation too, surprise, surprise, right? Now, let's travel to Kentucky. Let's travel to Jefferson County. Let's travel to Louisville, where there is this Breonna Taylor case. And now the grand jury tapes have been released of the grand jury, I guess at the hearing, not the trial, but the hearing. And so prior to the release of those tapes was the admission by Attorney General Daniel Cameron that he did not produce any evidence or information to the grand jury to cause them to render a verdict, not a verdict, but a true bill or a no true bill of indictment for any charges of murder. If you go to, there's a YouTube page, Law and Order, you'll hear the full transcript, if you will, the full tapes, which I think is more important than the transcripts, because you ain't gonna read that shit. I would, but you may not read that shit. I don't know, because it gets boring over time. But when you hear it, the only evidence that was presented was the evidence of wanton endangerment for the officer, I believe, Detective Hinkinson, who fired the shots into the apartment that went into the other apartments. And so here we talk about, well, there's a travesty of justice. The grand jury should have been able to have the evidence before them to make the decision as to whether or not they were going to charge these officers with murder. I agree with Attorney General Daniel Cameron. There's no evidence to support that there's criminal intent. Did Breonna die? Yes, she did. Was it tragic? Yes, it was. Was it wrongful death? You can't debate that. Yes, it was definitely a wrongful death. Did the act occur? Yes, it did. Was her house the right house to hit? Yes, it was. Were they expecting a large amount of narcotics? No, but they were expecting money there, which if they had the chance to search and she had not been killed, thus rendering that scene as a homicide scene, they would have had the ability to search. But once it became a homicide scene, they could not search, so they did not find. Was that the right place? Yes. Was she a part of the criminal conspiracy? Yes. Would she have been charged? Yes. Would they have tried to flip her to get more information against her co-conspirators? Absolutely. She's the least culpable. In other words, she's the person with the less amount of charges who has something to lose. So we could flip her and turn her on her other people because in essence, she controls the money. She controls the bail amounts. She is the one who's like the unofficial accountant. She's the most culpable. We would have flipped her just like that. Maybe. Just maybe. But did they have enough information to say with malice aforethought that they entered into that place knowing that they were going to kill her? There's no evidence whatsoever to suggest. Here's another thing to look at too. People are holding the Attorney General Daniel Cameron to the same standard that they would hold a prosecutor. And I want you to understand that when you're talking about politics and what's required to even get into that office, you didn't say anything about State's Attorney Kim Foxx. She has prosecutorial experience, but only that at the juvenile level. And those of you who followed me, you've heard me say this before. You've heard her even kind of admit it on Chicago Tonight. She's never prosecuted a first-degree murder case. She's never prosecuted a major felony that at the adult level. Yet she's the state's attorney of Cook County. Attorney General Daniel Cameron. We don't know anything about his prosecutorial experience. I'll give you another name. Attorney General Kwame Raoul. He's never been a prosecutor. He's been an appellate prosecutor. But if you know anything about appellate cases, they don't retry. It's just a presentation or a brief examination of the record of that case in the lower courts. He himself doesn't go and try the case himself. So in the event, or in the case of the people of the state of Illinois versus Jason Van Dyke, you know about that case with the Laquan McDonald, and how after the verdict of guilty for second-degree murder, there was all this celebration and hoopla. We got him. Okay, let's wait till we get to the sentencing. Then when we get to the sentencing for second-degree murder, you don't look at Chapter 730 Illinois Compiled Statutes Act 5, which is a unified code of corrections that talks about the sentencing guidelines that we have in the state of Illinois. You probably haven't even heard of that until now. Let's be honest. Let's have an honest conversation. Then when Jason Van Dyke gets the sentence according to second-degree murder, you're not understanding how sentencing even happens. Is it unfair? Yeah, unfair things do happen in the criminal justice system. That doesn't mean you shouldn't learn. And so in looking at the sentencing recommendations or the sentencing guidelines, which is in fact just a guideline because we don't have a mandatory minimum like at the federal level in certain cases, but you have this 10 years at maximum for second degree. But if you don't understand where there's circumstances and aggravation, which would make a person get the full 10, and then mitigation, which would help them get less than the full, he doesn't have any priors. And so he got the appropriate sentence based upon his past conduct and whatever the case may be, and the case in that given situation. So what did Attorney General Kwame Raoul do? File a writ of mandamus to get the Illinois Supreme Court to look at the sentencing in essence because the sentencing was wrong or not dished out the right way according to the angry mob theory. We, the black community, want Jason Van Dyke to be burned to the stake because of all this stuff. And people have their different agendas why they wanted that to happen, right? But then when you find the Supreme Court, we're not reviewing that. That's as appropriate. What do you expect? And then just looking at Attorney General Raoul's press conference, which for the Attorney General was probably one of the weakest press conferences I've ever seen. I'm not saying anything about him personally, but professionally, he's never been a prosecutor. So when you say that you want a special prosecutor and then by statute, when no one else wants to touch it, it falls into the hands of the Attorney General of that given state, look at his ability. What has he done? You can't expect a plumber to fix leaks if he doesn't know how to use a wrench. That's what it is. You know, you can't expect a person to drive a bus if you barely have a Class D driver's license. It doesn't work that way, you know. And so if what's in it for the black people should be this thing called justice, should we not look at those who are going to administer the justice and demand more of them? Or are we going to just vote a person in simply because cosmetically and oratorically they look good, they're beautiful, and they're great speakers, and they're backed by people who are popular, but when it comes down to when the shit hits the fan or when the rubber meets the road, they don't have the ability to do the job? Don't we complain about people who get the job and they don't have the qualifications all the time? But here we got somebody who doesn't have the qualifications, who don't do the job, and now we're pissed. It's a little too fucking late, isn't it? Moving on. I had the chance to go to an event, and it wasn't really an event, so to speak, but it was a event where people were coming out there and, supporting black-owned businesses and stuff like that. You want to call it a pop-up shop. That's not really what it was. It was inside of a grocery store. 2101 East 71st Street. 2101 East 71st Street. And shouts out to them. Man, they got some good food in there. I'm on some other stuff right now. And triggered you. Now it's time to feed you. You need to go to 2101 East 71st Street. Local market. Support that shop. They now have that in the area, but there was a lady, Superhero Huff. Now you hear the commercials ran on What's in It for the Black People Network. Superhero Huff. She's got a great comic book series and great material in terms of the shirts and the sublimation and things like that she does. But just hearing of her story, and then being screwed over and being threatened and then, overcoming that. That's why I got no problem, putting her stuff out here. I promote my books too, but I definitely have no problem putting her stuff out here because I support a story of when a person goes through tumultuous circumstances and they come out on top as a winner, and so I think that it's important. So you can go to Superhero Huff. I'm trying to see, I think I got her business card. Superherohuff.com. Yes, East Side. Absolutely. Superherohuff.com and contact her. But she's got some great comic books, and I support them. I really do. And I said I was going to give her a shout out because she definitely has some great material that's out there. So yeah, shouts out to Superhero Huff. I love her story. Hate the fact that she had to go through it. When we want to talk about having professional law enforcement, officers who mean well in our community and have real reasons behind why they chose the profession they chose. And then when they are in that profession, some of you all who never walked in the shoes of law enforcement, you don't understand how fucked up we get treated. You just don't really understand. And so while you giving us shit out there on the streets and stuff like that, because we pulled you over because you were in a rush and you think we fucking with you, and you got some officers that do that. Yeah, you got that, but that's not all of us. And when you treat us like shit, it's like, and you don't really understand the system and how, in order to make it better, you have to infuse yourself in certain parts of the system in areas where you can control to make the difference in areas where it needs to happen first in order for there to be a global difference in this thing called law enforcement. You make it hard and not palatable, if you will, for black folks to even want to enter into law enforcement. I mean, the shit that happened to her, it was just, I supported her. I support her because that's just some, and I won't speak on everything, but it's just trouble. And if we want to have real change in our community, it's not enough. And Herb Howard, Tucson Warner, you all said that on, the portion of I Said What I Said when I watched it. You got plenty of people who are just fucking cowards. They just, they'll say the shit on Jeffrey, but they won't say it downtown. You'll say it on Facebook and you'll type it on Facebook, but you have not the courage, even to get out there and be willing to die for what you really believe in. And I'm not saying go out there and be suicidal, go out there and be reckless, but until you're willing to strap on a vest and strap on a badge or a star and strap on a belt and go out there and be a part of the change and have good intervention. And, there are a lot of you who follow me. There are a lot of you who follow Maze. There are a lot of you who follow, Herb Howard and Tucson Warner and, the Book of Dawn, or just watch shows and stuff. I see the comments. I see you commenting. I see you having great ideas, but it's more than just an idea that's going to make this change happen. It's more than just, I got a theory or I got a thought. Are you willing to die behind that shit? You are absolutely right. We are not our ancestors, because some of you motherfuckers are just cowards. And I love you enough to say it, and I can say it with a great degree of certainty, guarantee that if the bullets were hitting, if they were shooting, you wouldn't run to that gunfire. You'd run away from it. When aggression starts to happen, you cowered up to it. I see it. I train people all the time. I see it in my classes, and I love them enough to tell them, you are not fucking ready. We are not ready. Some of you all saw that, in fact, the Not Fucking Around Coalition, that whole situation in Lafayette. I forgot what state it was in. I want to say Louisiana or something. But in Lafayette, shots are fired. People are scattering. What the fuck? No. When shots are fired, you hit the deck, look at the area where the shots are being fired, and you advance towards that threat. Even if it means one of you go down, they can't kill you all. But not everybody is willing to actually put themselves on the line for this thing called justice. Not everybody's willing to, they protest in safe spaces. You protest downtown because people downtown ain't armed and ready to fuck you up. You burn their businesses down, and then you come into the community and burn down your own shit, where people who have empathy for your black ass ain't gonna sit there and put a bullet in your ass. But you won't go over to Bridgeview because you know they'll shoot your ass the minute you step on that doggone property, because their life matters and their property matters and what they did and what they worked hard for. They be damned if your ungrateful ass come fuck that shit up. That part right there. A child not embraced by the village will burn it to feel its warmth. You've heard me say that before. That's the African proverb that we not going to sit here and continuously address, but I'm going to continuously address that though, because the child not embraced by the village will burn it to feel its warmth. And that's why we have a great degree of the problems that we have in our community. That's why we don't have, in essence, that's a part of, not the whole total, but that's a part of the reason why we don't have the law enforcement officers that we need to have in our community. Because when you get them in the community, you treat them like shit. We sit here and talk about some of the black officers are some of the worst ones too. And that may be the case, but they didn't start out that way. They didn't start out that way. Because if you look at it, a great degree of us come from fucked up homes. A great degree of us come from fucked up homes. And so when we come from fucked up homes and we don't learn things about how to turn things around, and then we sit here and we meet someone on the streets who may have triggered some of the things that we went through when we were younger, it creates a different level of how I'm going to approach this person, how I'm going to police this person. Oh, motherfucker, it's payback now. It's payback time now. Because you were that bully, and you reminded me of that bully. But wait a minute, what about the law? What about the Fourth Amendment? What about Graham versus Connor? What about Tennessee versus Gardner? Time out for that shit, because you went one way and I'm going to take it another way. So now it becomes personal. How many of you all dealt with police officers who kind of took things personal and you didn't know how to bring them back, and so you just continued to go personal with them too? I'm telling you, we could sit there and talk about race all day. We could sit there and talk about gender all day, but we can miss the fact that a great degree of what we go through is a human problem. It's a human problem first. These social constructs that are designed to divide us and keep us apart as citizens and things like that. We're all sitting at the table, but we're sitting here playing different games when we should be playing the same game with the cards that we're dealt and just finding a way to take advantage and to win. There's just so much I could say, but we got to go on commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about this thing, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Pick it back with Triggered.
WIFTBPM.
Introducing your trusted source for high-quality black emojis, better known as Blackmoji. We believe black is beautiful, and that beauty should be reflected in the digital market. Now there is an app that does just that, starting with Black Greek letter organizations. Blackmoji D9 offers more than an emoji app. It is a cultural experience of black excellence. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to access a specially curated catalog of emojis representing the Divine Nine. Use the emojis to celebrate Black Greek events, acknowledge current events, support social causes, and learn about esteemed Black Greek members who blaze the trail of Black history. A portion of every subscription goes toward a scholarship fund specifically for members of Black Greek letter organizations to help keep the legacy alive. Download the Blackmoji app today.
Biggest threat to Illinois citizens from Washington is health care costs and policies. Senior citizens have their Social Security reduced from Medicaid, and some of our senior citizens live off $3 a week for food allowance. Working families are facing bankruptcy over policy and limit and costs. Drug prices require a decision between food and Medicaid. I'm Dr. Willie Wilson. Vote for me and send me to Washington. God bless.
Paid for by Willie Wilson for Senate 2020.
WIFTBPM.
Live from What's in It for the Black Media Studio.
And so, my fellow Americans, I have a dream.
You're listening to Triggered.
You want to crown them? Then crown their ass. I ain't scared of you, mother.
The one and only.
Mike Brown.
My calculations are correct.
Let's begin.
Hey, what's going on? You're back with Trigger with Instructor Mike. I'm your host, Instructor Mike. And don't forget to like the Maze Jackson page and go on ahead and hit those stars. Shouts out to Scotty Wilson for 4,465 stars. Those kind of stars help support great content, such as I Said What I Said with Herb Howard and Tucson Warner. This show with Instructor Mike, the Maze Jackson morning show. That's just a great informative show to learn about some things that you probably haven't learned about, some controversial topics, things like that. And I want you to understand it's not always about agreeing with the person that you get the information from. We need to agree to disagree without being disagreeable. Sometimes people want to like what they hear instead of learning from what they've heard. You can learn something from anyone. And so that's what What's in It for the Black People Media Network is about. Okay. All right. Hey guys, do you love wings, or how about Henny wings or tequila wings? I'm glad you said so, because Bada Bing Wings is coming to Chicago near you. That's right. Chicago restaurant will be at 4754 North Clark Street in Chicago on the corner of Lawrence and Clark. These wings will be phenomenal with over 10 flavors and over 5 dipping sauces. Check this place out, and I guarantee you'll be wanting more of the wings after trying it out. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram for the grand opening giveaways this November and a chance to try the menu for free. That's right, free. You can enter on Facebook or Instagram at Bada Bing Wings. Don't forget to like and follow them in order to enter. See you at the grand opening on that day. And that's my friend Jose. That's his business. He's been very, very, very supportive of my books and just trying to get them out to children. You know, what I tell myself first, children's real world affirmations of self-esteem. I was at the place where I met the young lady, who authored and created the Superhero Huff commercial that you hear constantly rolling on What's in It for the Black People Media Network. And, we sold a lot of books to a lot of parents with kids and stuff like that. And we, this book right here, oh my God, Stuck in Fuck, The Aftermath of After Ass, How to Unfuck Your Parental Past. This is an adult book that looks like a children's book that is very simplistic. And as an anger management specialist, what I've learned is that when you have the baby daddy, baby mama issues and stuff like that, and the he ain't shit. Now, well, my question is, how long have you been the fly? It's a lot of, blaming on him and blaming on her and stuff like that, when there needs to be an equal conversation about how you may be stuck in fucking part because of you. You spent all this time blaming him and you forgot to be honest about what it is about you that made you not the person who you were then, that chose you to lay down and have a child with him. And so now there needs to be equal conversation, because we need our dads back. We need our parents to start being parents, and that is what we need. And half of y'all are going through the stress that you're going through because you're stuck in fuck, and you need to unfuck it fast. I got another book coming out, Stuck in Fuck 2, not just the ladies, your ass too, and it's for the guys, because the shit that we do, sometimes you get a female pregnant because you want to keep her because of your insecurities and shit. We need to have those kinds of conversations. That's right. And I don't give a fuck controversial enough to sit here and tell you this is what we need to talk about. This book is selling like hotcakes. Okay, so if you want this and other books, you can always inbox me, comment, whatever the case may be, reach out to me. My intention is to be, I guess, the Black Dr. Seuss. That's right. My books are already in libraries. They're in the Detroit Public Library. I drove down to Detroit in the freaking last winter, to get these books into these libraries. They're in the Chicago Park, not the Park District. They should be. They're in the Chicago Public Library. There are other places. And it's easy to talk about some of the things that we talk about, but you got to get out here and put in this work. Okay. Our ancestors fought and died to give us the right of access to the things that we don't even take, that we don't even use all the time. Shit. LeVar Burton with his blind ass from Star Trek told you, take a look, it's in a book, and you sitting here on fucking Fortnite. Look, Fortnite is cool. Sit down and read a book. This is the stuff that we needed to learn. What I tell myself about self-protection, what I tell myself about talent, even in the Spanish, lo que me digo a mí mismo primero. We need this stuff. We need this stuff. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the things that we don't learn about or that we didn't learn about when we were children, that's part of the reason why we continue these generational curses. That's part of the reason why a child not embraced by the village will burn it to feel its warmth, because the adults are thinking that the younger generation is fucked up, and then the younger generation ain't listening to the older generation because the older generation had a duty and a responsibility to keep the stuff going and try to repair and continue to fight. But they didn't continue to fight because you got access to shit. So when you got access to shit, now you want to sit there and, well, I didn't have it, so I'm gonna give all the shit to you so you can have it. Well, that's why people kill over Jordans. That's why people kill over cars. That's why people kill over things, because you got a great degree of insecurity because we place security in materials, things that are tangible, things that depreciate in value as soon as you take it out the store, as soon as it walks off the lot. And that's why we have self-esteem issues, because we don't get up there because our parents are traumatizing the fuck out of us and showering us with everything. And there's this entitlement generation. I'm telling you, the generational curses that we have, and I'm going to be hard on your ass. You could be a good-natured person. You could have a great heart, but you're fucking your kids up, giving them everything they want. If we don't sit here and teach our kids real-world affirmations, and I'm going to say it on some of these other affirmation books. I am great. I am light. I am sun. I am bright. You're full of shit. Let me tell you why. Because every day is not going to be a great day. When are you going to sit there and tell them about the bad shit? How about I'm great? Not everybody's going to be great towards me, or I'm not going to always have a great day. But fuck it, I'm great. Or I'm not feeling so great today. Maybe I need to go on ahead and acknowledge that. But you know what? I'm not going to stop trying. I'm not going to stop doing. How about this? Failure is a part of success. If I learn from the failure, what did I learn? That is directly quoted out of this book. See, the problem is some of us don't try because we're fucking afraid to fail, because we are afraid of failure because no one taught us about the positive applications of failure being the recipe that you need for success. I just released another book today, What I Tell Myself About No. I'm writing books like hotcakes. Look, what I tell myself about no. The child who cannot take the no becomes the adult who cannot take rejection. If I am a fucked up person and you come my way, I need to tell you no so that you could push your ass off to the next opportunity. General Colin Powell said it best. He was working as a young man in a Jewish store. And after a while, he was at the point where he could grow no more. And that person who owned that store let him go. Why did that person let him go? My son, you have no growth here. This is the end of the line. That's where it's at. That no is necessary to propel you for the next avenue of success. But if you don't understand the proper value of what no means, you're going to fight that rejection. You're going to try to hurt that person. You're going to sit there and kick down this door that is meant to stay closed. And I have to give shouts out to a dispatcher at a police department I used to work at. I wanted to get into this one police department, and I fought so hard and tried so many times, and I kept getting that no. And I was sitting here and talking to her, and I was like, I don't know why I'm getting this no. My credentials are there. I'm this, I'm that. And she was like, well, baby, you need to understand that, sometimes that door is closed for a reason. Maybe you don't want to go behind that door because what's behind that door may not be for you. And that could be God's way of telling you, hey, move on. But sometimes he ain't gonna mess with free will too much. You're gonna go on ahead and go behind that door and get that opportunity, and it turned out to be the worst thing you ever walked yourself into. Worst thing you ever walked yourself into. So baby, take my advice, take that note and move the fuck on. And she said it just like that, and I did just that. You got to understand how to take that note. We got to pump our kids with real world affirmations. I like me. Not everyone will like me. That is okay. I like me. For some of us that got the chubby chubs, my body is what it is. Skinny, fat, or short with a hat, tall, small, basketball. That's what it is, baby. Because some of us, your bank account is more in fit with the gym membership that you paid for than the gym that you go to. The last time you seen a gym was Jim in doggone Maxwell Street right off the interstate. That's the last time you seen Jim was Jim on Maxwell Street. That's a reality. I'm not saying be in love with obesity, but I'm saying love who you are, because that platform where you are right now is the impetus for change. But if you hate who you are right now, you're going to lose the motivation to even want to change. I'm telling you, we got to pump our kids with real world affirmations. This is my flagship book. Wait till I come back Thursday. I'm a Thursday, because my delivery of my next book, my next flagship book that I am extremely proud of, Mommy, Daddy, Please Teach Me. How many of y'all parents sat there and, when you got smart, because I was one of them little badass kids I would get smart with. I wasn't bad. That's what my mama called me, though. I was smart with my mom. My mother was like, I put food on the table, clothes on your back, a roof over your head. You don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. So don't you sit there and tell me if I didn't love you, I wouldn't do this. And here go my little smart ass. That's not love. That's responsibility. If you don't do that shit, I'll be with DCFS and you'll be in jail. And I got whooped. But it's the truth, though. It's the truth. But what we need to do is, I got a segment or a part in my book where I say, don't just clothe me. Teach me how to dress my best for years from now. A family I may have with boys and girls, ties and pearls. Comb their hair, cut it too. Maybe a dress. What size of shoes? How do I know what to choose? Teach me how so I don't lose. Absolutely. I am willing to say that there's a great degree of the men out here, especially in our community. We want to hold them up as kings. We want to hold them up as princes. But moms, you may be doing a bad job of raising that boy to be a good partner. Whether he'll be a good man or not is up in the air, but he won't be a good partner. He won't be able to ease the burden of child rearing if you don't teach him why he needs to do these things. And we're going to talk more about that when we come back.
WIFTBPN.
Funeral expenses are costly. The Casket Store wants to help you save hundreds of dollars. You do not have to purchase a casket from the funeral home. Call now for a free in-home consultation. Call 773-445-6900. 773-445-6900.
Introducing your trusted source for high-quality Black emojis, better known as Blackmoji. We believe Black is beautiful, and that beauty should be reflected in the digital market. Now there is an app that does just that, starting with Black Greek letter organizations. Blackmoji D9 offers more than an emoji app. It is a cultural experience of Black excellence. Download the app in the Apple or Google Play Store to access a specially curated catalog of emojis representing the Divine Nine. Use the emojis to celebrate Black Greek events, acknowledge current events, support social causes, and learn about esteemed Black Greek members who blaze the trail of Black history. A portion of every subscription goes toward a scholarship fund specifically for members of Black Greek letter organizations to help keep the legacy alive. Download the Blackmoji app today.
WIFTBPN.
Live from What's in It for the Black Media Studio.
And so, my fellow Americans, I have a dream.
You're listening to Trigger.
You want to crown him? Then crown her ass. I ain't scared of you, mother.
The one and only.
Mike Brown.
My calculations are correct.
Let's begin.
All right, we're back with Trigger with Instructor Mike. I am your host, Instructor Mike, and we're going to go on ahead right back into it. We've been talking about children's real-world affirmations of self-esteem. We talk about it takes a village to raise a child, and we even got more of that in here. Look, what I learned, I must teach another, a sister from another mister, a brother from another mother. I can help others. Since when did we get outside of the mindset of helping others? Come on, man. We can do better than this. We can do better than this. We can do better than this. We got to do better than this. The Mommy, Daddy, Please Teach Me. That is an awesome book. This is an awesome book. Look, I am taking all this stuff from my trauma and putting it out there so we can reverse this curse. I'm telling you, the things that you don't teach your children how to do become the pressures, in essence, that you put on them and perhaps on someone else when they start to have children, because it repeats, it continuously repeats. There are a great degree of men out there who don't know how to be a good husband, don't know how to be a good father. So we think that being a good father is just the provision of materials. It's not just that. It's the time that you take and you say, but it's easy to say that. Look, a lot of the things that we need to have is the motivation. Look, leadership is the process of influencing others to accomplish a mission by providing purpose, direction, and motivation. I learned that when I was in the military. That's taken directly from the FM 22-100, the book on leadership when you're learning how to be a military leader. And the thing is that, yeah, we'll talk about that too. Respect. I'm going to get to that, Adrian, but we talk about that. Look, some of you all can easily say, well, the skills that you don't know how to do, go to YouTube. Yes, that's the directions. Who doesn't know how to follow directions? As long as you put your mind to it, you can follow directions. But where is the passion behind that thing that you're doing, that on that day when you don't want to do it, you're able to push past the suck that you're in? Another term that we say in the military, embrace the suck. When times are hard and when you're struggling and when you lost your job and when you're sick and things have to be done, what makes a mother passionate behind making sure it has to get done? Because it's not just the direction, it's the passion with which you need to do it. It's the understanding of why you need to do it. And so could it be the case that if there is a great degree of undateable men, yeah, I watch those dumbass statuses that people post and stuff like that. If it's a great degree of undateable men and a great percentage of our households are headed by women, where the fuck do you think the undateable men came from when they were little boys? They became that way because they had good-natured yet uneducated women who did not help us become better partners. How is it that I'm a father of 4 children, 3 of whom are girls, and I don't know a damn thing about a great degree of women's issues, but the men are not being sensitive? They're only not being sensitive because they weren't taught the things to be sensitive to. Trigger like a motherfucker. Write it down at www.trigger.com/I don't give a fuck. It's the truth. I'm just sitting here and telling you, we got to change this. We got to have an honest conversation. It can't just be all the guys. It's got to be you too. It can't just be all the ladies. It's got to be the guys too, because we have a part to play in it too. But the problem is when you're stuck in fuck, both of you are blind. Hurt people come together first. And when they come together first, and then they begin to swap stories of traumas, and then they begin to trade, well, I'll do this for you and you do that for me, and together we're a team. You are not a team unless you're a strong me, because in that word team is the spelling of me. You can't be a part of a strong team unless you're a strong me, and that's why some of you are stuck in fuck, because you know what also team spells? Meat. The world is eating you. Your job is eating you. Your baby mama's eating you. Your baby dad is eating you. The court system is eating you. Everybody is taking a chunk out of your ass instead of you taking a chunk back, because you're meat instead of being a strong team. You need to find a way to unfuck it. And the only way you're going to unfuck it is if you have an honest conversation with yourself about what is it about you that made me not see. Am I insecure? Am I chasing love? This whole thing, Adrian Anderson on Facebook said, since people stop raising their kids to be respectful, oh, and the parents aren't either, when they are not learning about respect, what is this thing called respect? You hear it with Aretha Franklin. That's what I meant. RESPCT. Find out what it means to me. Well, what should it mean to you, and why in that? You get a good ass song. Shaka to me, shaka to me, shaka to me, shaka to me, shaka to me. And then we just move into it. And yeah, that's what we think respect is. Somebody else has to define this thing called respect. No, respect is a feeling. It's what you feel about yourself. How you feel about yourself. The confidence to be able to tackle new things. The knowledge to know that in tackling this new thing, I can fail, but failure is a recipe for the success. But to decrease the level of failure, I need to know what I'm doing. I need to be honest that I don't know. And from there, we can go on ahead and try. Some people won't even fail because they won't even try. But you expect a pot of gold when your ass won't dig. How does that work? And so you think that somebody is supposed to give you this feeling of respect when it really resides within you. If you know who you are, you know the truth about you, you know what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad about you, and you're honest about you. No one should be able to walk towards you and disrespect you. They can only disrespect the decorum of how you are in that particular area, and then you have a choice according to proxemics. I can stay there and deal with that level of respect, or I can get the fuck out because I don't have have to be there because I'm not oppressed by these feelings. I'm not attached to you. I don't need something from you. But when you're in a position where you're bleeding, when you're in a position where you're crying, when you're shot and when you're hurt, you don't give a fuck who you get the Band-Aid from. And this person could give you the most sanitary Band-Aid in the most toxic environment. But because they kept giving you that Band-Aid and giving you that elixir for this pain that really resides within you, that you have the ability to unfuck, but you won't be honest with yourself. Then some of you are stuck in fucked up situations over and over again. Jobs you hate, things that you hate to do, family who sit there and betray you, friends who betray you, all these things that you're stuck in because you could unfuck it yourself, but you let people sell you more Band-Aids who mean you harm. And then when a person like me or better than me comes to you and tells you, hey, you're fucked and you're just sugarcoating that fuck donut and you're eating that and getting fat off this fuckery of life. And when we come and tell you this, then you attack us, then you block us, and then you throw us away and you don't want to listen to what we have to say. But we don't give a fuck about how you feel. We just want you to unfuck yourself so you can be who you need to be. And until we have that honest conversation, it's not going to change. We're going to continue to ask this question, what's in it for the black people, instead of being able to stack on top what we've gained. There are no gains when you're constantly in situations where you need Band-Aids. We're going to continue to have politicians who, have wonderful choirs who sound great. And, one amazing grace. And you just, oh my God, it's for us. Yay. And all the while, that's the last memory you had when in the boardroom that your ass can't even get into. They're doing the real deal that keeps them in office over and over and over and over again, while they give you a basketball tournament and a fucking chicken dinner because they know how to feed your soul and not educate you to the point where you actually get something that is in it for us. And they can get you to point the finger outside of the community that you reside in and get you to ignore the very issues, the potholes that's in the community that need to be filled, the water main break that has gone months and months and months without being touched, and now it finally gets fixed at the wrong time. We're not paying attention to the issues that are in front of us because inattentional blindness. You're not expecting to see it because you're too busy getting the next Band-Aid. And some of you, we're not on drugs, we're not on narcotics, that type of form, but that Band-Aid is another kind of form of oppression in essence. If I keep selling you oppression, if I keep selling you racism, if I keep telling you that you're in a condition that, while it exists in part, it's not to the level that I made you think, but I'm making you think that you're in a deeper hole than you actually are in. Yeah. Making you think that you're in a deeper hole than you're actually in. And all the while, who benefits? Not you. So then you give up and you grow older and you don't even have the energy to continue because you're feeling like no one is hearing you. We're constantly asking the question, what's the agenda? How do we do this? How do we come from kings and queens who figured out how to do, and we still asking how the fuck to do? How is that possible? And why are we not addressing that issue? Why? And I'm going to keep on triggering you because parents, we are responsible for creating the next generation. We're responsible for doing something about these problems that we have now. That's what I'm focused on. So don't come to me with that other shit. Don't sell me about chains I ain't never been in. Tell me about the chains that we're in right now. Tell me why we have a great degree of children burning down the village they were supposed to get love from. That's what I want you to tell me. Tell me about the fact that we got children getting killed and we got children growing up older. Matter of fact, a great degree of the killings that's going on right now. You really need to go to YouTube and go to Street News TV and go to some other channels and learn about the fact that we got children out here doing a great percentage of these killings that are going on out here, but these children aren't getting caught. Well, Chicago police is the first one you blame. They're the ones not out here solving a crime. It's a fucking crime to solve when this little kid that did it and they don't even have a damn record. Who we gonna look for? Fisher fucking Price? They're out here doing the killing. Why? Because they're getting the quote unquote love from this crew when they had the opportunity to get the love from home, but the mom's too busy out here chasing after baby daddy or chasing after the next whatever the fuck, and the father's not there because of the mental trauma in part. There's other reasons too, but because of the mental trauma born on that man by the mother who accepted. So you got both parties fighting, and no one's paying attention to the child until the streets get a hold of that child. And that child becomes a teenager. That child becomes a teenager. And the child and the teenager are out there doing the killing. And instead of blaming yourself in the house, the mic cut off. Instead of blaming yourself in the house, right? You want to blame the police. And I would double down on what Superintendent Brown said. As long as the police are the only ones being held responsible for the after actions, the behaviors that spawn the crime, nothing is ever going to get fixed. Because all we do is blame the police for the crime. And we don't look in these homes. We don't look at these parents. We don't have these honest conversations. Well, mommy, what caused me to be here? Why would you ask that? That's your response. Instead of sitting here and saying, hey, you were the rebound baby. Let's have a conversation about what that even means. Or this is the other person that has entered my life. This is the other person that has entered my life. Who is this? This person ain't my daddy. This person ain't this. This person ain't that. The conflict. We don't have those conversations with our kids. And so that's what continues this stuck in fuck. I'm telling you, this book, shit, it's amazing. And it's not long at all. It's not long at all. It's not long at all. Something that needs to happen. We need to have that conversation. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I talk about that all the time. And I'm going to continue to talk about that theory. Because a great degree of why we have learning issues here. We got, how are you all doing right now? Those of you all who are watching and listening by YouTube or watching by YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. Don't forget to hit those stars. It helps to support great conversations and great content on networks like this, where we can say almost what the fuck we want, some things considered, and still be able to have a great conversation. Because I ain't got time to sugarcoat shit. We out here trying to save some doggone lives. So I don't have time to sugarcoat shit. So if you need band-aids for your ears, that's part of the problem right now. Unplug that shit and listen. And that was a great gunshot, by the way. It almost happened. Almost went down. I was about to say what was going on here. Shots fired. Subject down. Let's continue. Here we go. But how are you all doing out there with this distance learning? Yeah, I got you, Eddie. As soon as I'm done from this, text me and I'll bring you your copy. I got it with me too. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. How are you all doing with this distance learning? You know who I feel for? I feel for the children at home. I feel for the children at home who are dealing with the parents who don't understand that new math. Oh, I feel it for the children who are at home who don't understand that the parent don't know shit. And so how they going to sit there and teach you when they don't know something? And so what happens? What do we have happened previously before COVID that might be exacerbated or made worsened by COVID? What we have is children who are struggling in school because the home life is affected. And when the home life is affected, then they take that to school because it's hard for you to have a mind that's conducive to receive what the teacher is trying to teach you, which is at the top, at the level of self-actualization, if the home life is messed up. And we're going to continue this conversation because some of you parents ain't shit. I said it. Some of you parents ain't shit. And that's the reason why we got a great degree of crime in our community, because our children are burning the village down to feel the warmth that you should be providing. You need to unfuck it. And we'll talk about that when we come back.
WIFTBPN.
Funeral expenses are costly. The Casket Store wants to help you save hundreds of dollars. You do not have to purchase a casket from the funeral home. Call now for a free in-home consultation. Call 773-445-6900. 773-445-6900.
When you need vibrant, colorful gear that offers high-performance material that keeps you cool, call Agent Huff Custom Gear. Let us take your expressions and create something new for your everyday wear, your bedroom, or bath. For all your needs, we offer custom sublimation, silkscreen, vinyl, and embroidery. You can reach us on all things social at Superhero Huff. www.superherohuff.com or 630-476-9191.
WIIFTVPM.
Live from What's in It for the Black Media Studio.
And so, my fellow Americans, I have a dream.
You're listening to Triggered.
You want to crown them? Then crown their ass. I ain't scared of you, mother.
The one and only
Mike Brown.
My calculations are correct.
Let's begin.
I'm loving this graphic. Welcome to What's in It for the Black People Media Network presents Triggered with your host, Instructor Mike. I am your host, Instructor Mike, and we've been having a great conversation today. Everything talking about, the unfair analysis with regarding to the Midlothian police officer Ian Covey and the decision of the Cook County State's Attorney's Office not to charge Ian Covey in the unfortunate yet tragic death of a hero. And so many things went wrong, but because they went wrong doesn't mean he needed to be charged. And Kim Foxx is getting unnecessary and unfair treatment by the black community, her heroes, right? Our hero, giving her shit because she made a controversial decision. It's not politics, it's the law. Unfuck it, learn the law. Continuing on, talking about parents. Yeah, some of you all aren't shit. You heard me say it. Eyeballs right now. Freaking eyeballs. That's right. Some of you parents aren't shit. Yep, absolutely. You'll beat the shit out of your kid for coming home with some bad grades or having a bad card, whatever the case may have been, when you forgot. Maybe the internet wasn't working. Maybe the computer wasn't working. Maybe you didn't do what you were supposed to do to create that environment. Maybe every time they messed something up because you couldn't explain it, they were fucking up and you didn't want to give them the help they needed to get to. I'm just saying, we need to have that honest conversation. There are too many resources. I just hate it. One of the things that grinds my freaking gears, I hate it when we talk about how we don't have resources in our community. Shouts out to No Adults Left Behind and Mr. Andre Ellis and the adult high school where you can actually go and get your high school diploma. If you want to get your high school diploma, look it up online, No Adults Left Behind. We got too many resources in our community, too many jobs that your ass don't want to do. You want to be the CEO, but you don't want to be the motherfucking janitor, where you sit there and try to build a sense of work ethic in your kids, and your kids are becoming a carbon copy of your sorry yet heartful ass. I'm just saying, you know what I mean. You know exactly what I mean. There are things that you need to work on as a parent, things that I need to work on. If I can make the admission of the things that I needed and need to still work on, I know you can make that admission too. And see, our children are watching. They're watching. When we think they don't learn, I've always been a proponent of the statement that the children of the future will always be smarter than their predecessors because of the access and the speed with which they get information and technology. Just because your ass didn't do it when you were young doesn't mean they can't do it. And that's the reason why we have a severe disconnect between this generation and the generation of previous. And we got to find a way to get that connect. We need more families talking again, because family is all that you have. You try to do it for the gram, do it for the Vine, do it for the Facebook, do it for the twerk, all that other shit that you're trying to do. At the end of the day, when it comes down to those last moments, those people are not going to be there. They're not going to be there. You're going to have to be there for you. You're going to have to be there for yourself, your family. Family is what matters. Family is what matters. I'm going to read some of these comments from Cassandra Taylor, and shouts out to John Cooper for the 200 stars, and those of you all who send stars to support this great network. We greatly appreciate that. Cassandra Taylor says, yes, the children are suffering. A friend told me that her sophomore son's coding teacher had the class sit for 50 virtual minutes yesterday, or through 50 virtual minutes yesterday, of him playing with his daughter. He told the class that he was tired from the weekend. This is CPS. I mean, this is just absolutely damn ridiculous. You mean, Jason McDonald, you mean the backbone of the family or the community is not raising their kids properly? Jason, I mean both. I remember a time growing up where it wasn't just my mom, because my mom was too busy out there doing other shit. I had other people in the community, in the church community. See, when it's just about, here we go, I'm about to piss somebody off. Here we go. You ready for me to piss somebody off? Because I don't give a shit about what I say in my mouth, right? Should I say it? I think I should say it. See, what about fucking your wife then? It was actually about doing something for the community. Yeah, I said I triggered somebody. Yeah, there you go. I know I've been changed. I You know what I mean. Listen, that was good timing. That's how you shouts out to the great old studio engineer here. Oh, shots fired. Here we go. See, it wasn't about sitting here taking your tithes so we can make sure that the Mercedes-Benz payment was made. It was actually about making sure that you were actually taught. It was actually about making sure you intervene in the life of that family to make sure that when you saw that the mom was messing up, you can give her counseling so that she could be a better parent. It was actually about making sure that the doors of the church are now open, not just for your tithes, but making sure that the doors of the church are open so that people could actually come in and actually sit here and get good counseling. Can I get a yeah, man? Because we're just ordinary people. We don't know which way to go. Hey, I'm just saying, right? So if we don't know which way to go, whose responsibility is it to tell us to take it slow? Oh, I'm just telling you. Come on. Got to do need a responsibility. It's not just at the home. It's our community too. I remember growing up in that type of community but not for that community, I could have gone wayward. I could have gone the ways of gangs. Please, there's plenty of people who grew up like me that ended up going down that way, that negative way, because that's all they knew. That's all they knew. That's all they knew. We got to do better. We have a responsibility. We have to do better. Okay. This has been a great show. It really is. It really has. Shouts out to Maze Jackson for just taking that no, you can't say this, and creating an opportunity for this platform to allow such persons as myself, as Herb Howard, Tucson Warner, Mike Love and Diaz, the Bigs, Book of Dawn, Salim Muwakil and Muwakil's World. Shouts out to him for, and the studio engineers, the musical conductor, Sonia Escobar. I butchered Sonia's name. I said, I'm thinking about Sonia Sotomayor to be a Supreme Court justice, but Sonia Escobar, and just even Todd Stroger. Shouts out to Todd. Before my book even came to be, he came out and saw my place, my table, and bought What I Tell Myself for another young lady who was interested in the book. So Todd, shouts out to Todd Stroger for that. Just supporting great things that's going to bring us out of this mindset so we can actually love again. Damn, I'm tired of this toxic shit. This stuff, fighting for your kids and fighting just to survive, this shit is fucking stressful. I don't know, man. It's a lot. It really is. But we're going to go on ahead and continue to ask that question of everybody who's listening to this and just, what's in it for the black people? I'm going to continue to trigger you. Herb Howard and Tucson Warner is going to continue to say what they say. Coming up next is the Bigs. They're going to continue to talk about great sports content. Salim's going to continue to take you to places you definitely ain't been, but you going to go, right? Maze Jackson is going to continue to do what he does in educating the people. And we're going to continue with more great content here on What's in It for the Black People. So until Thursday, I'm gonna show you my book, Mommy Daddy Please Teach Me. Mommy Daddy Please Teach Me. That's an amazing book. It's gonna start that conversation that we need to have with our kids. Go hug your kids. No person knows the day nor the hour where you will leave this earth. People are dying too fast, it's just crazy. Hug your loved ones. Tell them you love them now. Look them in the eye and start to say that we are going to have those controversial conversations, because my job as an instructor, my job as your father, my job as your mother, aunt, uncle, whoever you are, is to put that dot on your brain so that when life shoves that pencil in your hand, you will have a dot to connect. You don't have to like me, but it's for later when you need this. And I have a duty and a responsibility saying, if I love you, we're going to go on ahead and teach you. Okay. Until Thursday, I am your host of Triggered Instructor Mike, answering that question continuously by pissing you the fuck off. What's in it for the black people? All right.
WIFTV PM.